Life is a journey filled with choices, challenges, and opportunities. Every single day we are faced with decisions, some big, some small. But the greatest decision, the one that determines the course of everything else, is who or what we place first in our lives. The foundation of success, purpose, and true fulfillment is built on one simple but powerful principle: putting God first. When you put God first, everything else falls into place. It does not mean life will be free from trials, but it does mean you will never walk through them alone. When God is at the center, he becomes the source of wisdom in confusion, strength in weakness, and peace in the storm. Too often, people seek fulfillment in careers, relationships, money, or fame, but none of these things can truly satisfy. They are temporary, and the moment they fade, so does the sense of purpose tied to them. But when your life is anchored in the eternal, you are unshakable no matter what comes your way. Putting God first means aligning your will with his, trusting his timing, and allowing him to lead every aspect of your life. It is not just about words, it is about action. It means prioritizing what matters most: your faith, your character, and your divine assignment. It means making time for him in the midst of busyness, seeking his guidance before making decisions, and trusting his ways even when they do not make sense. When you put God first, your perspective shifts. You no longer measure success by what you gain, but by the impact you make. You no longer live for yourself, but for a greater purpose. Fear loses its grip because you know who is in control. Worry fades because you understand that all things are working together for your good. Strength arises because you are not relying on your own ability, but on the limitless power of the one who holds all things in his hands. A life that puts God first is a life of divine order. It is a life where doors open that no man can shut, where provision comes from unexpected places, and where the impossible becomes possible. It is a life of clarity, where distractions lose their power and destiny becomes clearer. It is a life where joy is not dependent on circumstances, but on the unchanging nature of the one who never fails. When you put God first, you become a reflection of his love, a vessel of his purpose, and a light in a world that desperately needs direction. Your life becomes a testimony of what happens when a person chooses to trust, obey, and follow with unwavering faith. It is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Because when God is first, everything else finds its rightful place. Everything in life has a foundation, and the strength of that foundation determines the stability of whatever is built upon it. A house built on sand will collapse when storms come, but one built on solid rock will withstand the winds, the rain, and the floods. Life is no different. When the foundation of your life is built on temporary things, wealth, status, relationships, personal ambitions, you will always be at risk of losing everything when the pressures of life increase. But when your foundation is firmly set on the one who never changes, nothing can shake you. Putting him first means acknowledging that he is the source of your existence, the architect of your destiny, and the only unshakable foundation upon which your life can be securely built. When he is first in your life, you are not moved by circumstances because you trust that he holds your future. Challenges may arise, but your foundation remains unshaken. The storms may rage, but you stand firm because you are rooted in something greater than yourself. Many people chase success, security, and fulfillment in all the wrong places, only to find themselves empty and lost. They work tirelessly, accumulate possessions, seek validation, and strive for recognition. But deep within, there remains a void that nothing can fill. True fulfillment is found only when life is anchored in the one who created it. That is why putting him first is not an option. It is the very key to stability, peace, and purpose. When you make him your foundation, you begin to see life differently. Your priorities change, your decisions are guided by wisdom, and your heart finds peace even in the middle of uncertainty. You no longer live in fear of what tomorrow holds, because you know that the one who holds tomorrow is also the one who holds you. Life is filled with choices, and every decision we make shapes the direction of our journey. What you prioritize determines the course of your life. Many people place their careers above everything. Some put relationships first, while others prioritize personal ambition, comfort, or status. But whatever takes first place in your life has the greatest influence over your destiny. If the foundation of your priorities is weak, everything built upon it will eventually crumble. But when the one who created life is given the highest place, everything else aligns according to his divine order. Putting him first is not about neglecting responsibilities or abandoning goals. It is about placing everything in its rightful order. When you put him first, he brings structure to your life. He gives you wisdom to navigate relationships, direction in your career, and peace in your daily decisions. Many struggle because they try to fit him into their plans instead of surrendering to his greater plan. But true success comes when you recognize that he is not an addition to your life, he is the very center of it. People often feel overwhelmed, confused, and lost because they're chasing things that were never meant to come first. They invest time and energy into temporary pursuits, hoping for fulfillment, but only find frustration. But when you align your heart with him, clarity replaces confusion, peace replaces anxiety, and purpose replaces aimlessness. Your priorities shift, and you begin to see life with a new perspective, one that is not driven by fear, but by faith. Everything changes when you make him your priority. Your time, resources, and decisions reflect a life that is governed by wisdom rather than impulse. You begin to make choices that align with his will rather than following fleeting emotion. And when you put him first, you will find that everything you were once striving for begins to fall into place. Not because you chased them, but because you sought him above all else. When you put him first, your identity becomes rooted in something unshakable. Many people struggle with self-worth because they define themselves by their achievements, possessions, or the opinions of others. But all these things are temporary. The world constantly shifts its standards. One day, success looks like wealth. The next day, it looks like popularity. If you build your identity on these unstable foundations, you will always feel the pressure to prove yourself, to fit in, to measure up. But when he becomes your foundation, you no longer live for the approval of people. You live from the approval of the one who created you. When you understand who you are in him, you no longer seek validation from temporary things. You walk with confidence. Not because of your own strength, but because you know you are secure in him. You no longer have to compare yourself to others because you recognize that your value is not based on competition, it is based on purpose. You were created with intention, designed for a destiny, and placed on this earth with a mission that no one else can fulfill in the way you can. But the greatest freedom comes when you let go of the need to define yourself by external measures and instead embrace the truth of who you are in him. You are not what you have, not what you do, and not what others say about you. You are who he says you are, chosen, loved, and created with a purpose. And when you put him first, that truth becomes the foundation of your life, guiding your decisions, shaping your confidence, and freeing you from the burden of seeking validation from a world that is constantly changing. When you put him first, your priorities shift and your life aligns with a higher purpose. Too often, people chase after success, wealth, and recognition, believing that these things will bring them fulfillment. They dedicate their time, energy, and resources to building their careers, accumulating possessions, and securing their future, yet they still feel empty. The reason is simple. When the foundation of life is built on temporary things, it will always leave a void that nothing in this world can fill. But when you make him your priority, everything else begins to fall into place. Your ambitions are no longer just about personal gain, but about serving a greater purpose. Your decisions are not just about convenience, but about alignment with divine principles. You no longer live for temporary rewards, but for an eternal impact. Suddenly, your work is no longer just a job. It becomes a platform to reflect his values. Your relationships are no longer just connections. They become opportunities to demonstrate love, grace, and truth. Putting him first means seeking his wisdom in every decision, big or small. It means surrendering your plans to him and trusting that his purpose for your life is greater than anything you could create for yourself. It means no longer striving in your own strength, but relying on the one who holds all things together. And the beautiful thing is when you prioritize him, he takes care of the rest. He provides clarity where there is confusion, peace where there is chaos, and provision where there is lack. Life is not about chasing after things that will fade away. It is about seeking the one who never changes, who knows the beginning from the end, and who has a plan for your life far greater than anything you could imagine. When you put him first, You don't lose anything. You gain everything. Putting him first requires complete trust. A trust that says, even when I don't understand, I will follow. Even when it doesn't make sense, I will obey. Trust is not just believing that he exists. It is knowing that his way is the best way, even when it challenges your plans, your desires, and your understanding. It is easy to trust when things are going well, but the real test comes when life doesn't unfold the way you expected. Many people struggle with trust because they want to be in control. They want to dictate the timing, the process, and the outcome. But true trust is surrendering control, knowing that he sees what you cannot see. When you trust, you release fear, anxiety, and worry because you recognize that he is the ultimate provider, the ultimate protector, and the ultimate guide. You no longer make decisions based solely on what seems right in the moment, but on what is right in his eyes. Trusting him means refusing to compromise your integrity just to get ahead. It means refusing to take shortcuts that go against his principles, even when the world tells you that bending the rules is necessary for success. It means choosing faith over fear, even when the future is uncertain. It means standing firm in your values, even when others pressure you to conform. When you put him first and truly trust him, he will never fail you. It may not always be in the way you expect, and it may not always be on your timeline, but his ways are higher, his thoughts are greater, and his plans are perfect. Trusting him does not mean life will be without challenges, but it does mean that no matter what comes your way, you are never alone. Trust unlocks the door to a life of peace, purpose, and divine direction. When you put him first, you align yourself with divine wisdom, and wisdom is the key to making right decisions in life. Many people live by emotions, reacting to situations based on how they feel, rather than on what is true and right. But wisdom calls for discipline, for the ability to see beyond the present moment and recognize the long-term impact of every choice you make. Wisdom is more than knowledge. It is the ability to apply knowledge correctly. It is the ability to discern what is good from what is merely acceptable, what is best from what is simply convenient. Without divine wisdom, people chase after things that look promising but lead to destruction. They build their lives on foundations that seem strong but collapse in the storm. When you seek wisdom, you don't just live for the temporary. You live with an eternal perspective. You begin to evaluate your relationships, your ambitions, your business dealings, and your decisions through the lens of truth. You no longer rely on guesswork or fleeting emotions. You become intentional, weighing every step to ensure that it aligns with a higher purpose. Seeking wisdom means refusing to be led by the trends of the world, but by unchanging principles that guarantee success. It means understanding that just because something is popular does not mean it is right. Just because everyone is doing it does not mean it is wise. The pursuit of wisdom demands that you silence the noise around you and listen to the voice of truth. Because in wisdom, there is security, there is clarity, and there is unshakable confidence. When you put him first, you develop a heart of gratitude, and gratitude is the key to contentment. Too many people live in frustration, always chasing what they don't have, comparing themselves to others, and feeling like they're always lacking something. But when you put him first, you begin to see life from a different perspective. You stop focusing on what is missing and start appreciating what has already been given. Gratitude shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Instead of feeling like you are behind, you realize that you are exactly where you need to be for the season you are in. Instead of envying others, you celebrate their success because you trust that your own blessings are also on the way. You no longer live with a complaining spirit, but with a heart that finds joy in every moment, knowing that every day is a gift. A grateful heart does not mean you settle for less. It means you recognize what is already in your hands and use it to its full potential. When you develop this kind of mindset, you stop waiting for the perfect conditions to start moving forward. You stop looking at what you lack and start working with what you have. And when you do that, you unlock greater blessings because he blesses those who are faithful with what they have. Gratitude strengthens your faith. It reminds you that if he has brought you this far, he will not leave you now. It keeps you in a posture of humility, knowing that every good thing in your life is not by accident, but by his grace. And when you live with gratitude, you radiate peace, joy, and confidence, because you are no longer striving, you're trusting. When you put him first, your priorities align with a greater purpose. Too often, people chase after success, wealth, and recognition, only to find that these things do not bring lasting fulfillment. They strive, they hustle, they sacrifice their health, their families, and their peace, all in pursuit of things that can never truly satisfy the soul. But when you put him first, everything changes. Instead of running after temporary rewards, you begin to focus on what truly matters. Your decisions are no longer driven by fear, greed, or insecurity, but by a deep sense of purpose and conviction. You start to understand that success is not about how much you accumulate, but about how much impact you make. You recognize that true wealth is not measured in material possessions, but in the lives you touch, the love you share, and the legacy you build. When your priorities are in order, you stop wasting time on meaningless distractions. You stop being consumed by things that drain your energy and steal your joy. You become intentional about your time, your relationships, and your goals. You begin to invest in things that have eternal value, character, wisdom, integrity, and love. To invest in things that have eternal value, character, wisdom, integrity, and love. And when you live this way, you experience a deep sense of clarity and direction. You no longer feel lost or overwhelmed because you know where you are going. Every step you take is guided by divine wisdom. You move with confidence, knowing that as long as he is first in your life, everything else will fall into place. When you put him first, fear loses its grip on your life. Fear is the greatest enemy of progress, the silent thief of dreams, and the invisible prison that holds so many people back from their true potential. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. It paralyzes, keeps you stagnant, and stops you from stepping into the greatness you are designed for. But when he is first in your life, fear has no authority. You begin to walk in faith, not in fear. You trust that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. And every obstacle is a chance to witness his power at work. You no longer live under the weight of anxiety because you understand that your life is in the hands of the one who controls all things. You stop second guessing yourself because you know that as long as you are aligned with his will, you cannot fail. When fear is replaced with faith, boldness takes over. You begin to take risks that once seemed impossible. You speak with authority, move with confidence, and act with courage. You stop waiting for the perfect conditions and start walking in obedience, knowing that he will provide, protect, and guide you every step of the way. This is the power of putting him first. It liberates you from the chains of fear and allows you to embrace the fullness of your purpose. You begin to see yourself through his eyes, not through the limitations of your past, your circumstances, or the opinions of others. You stand firm, unshaken, unafraid, knowing that you are backed by an unshakable kingdom. When he is first in your life, your priorities align with his purpose, and everything else finds its rightful place. The world teaches people to chase success, wealth, and recognition, often at the cost of their values, peace, and relationships. But when he is at the center, success is redefined. It is no longer about what you accumulate, but about the impact you make. It is not about how much you gain, but how well you serve. True success is not measured by the applause of men, but by the fulfillment of divine purpose. When your life is built around him, you make decisions differently. Your time is spent wisely. Your resources are invested in things that matter, and your relationships are nurtured with integrity. You are no longer consumed by temporary pursuits, but driven by eternal significance. You stop striving for validation from people because you understand that your worth was established long before you were even born. There is no confusion, no exhaustion from chasing empty things, no frustration from trying to control what is beyond your ability. Instead, there is a sense of divine order, clarity, and fulfillment. Your steps are guided, your efforts are blessed, and your life becomes a testament to what happens when a person walks in alignment with the ultimate source of wisdom and purpose. Everything you once worried about provision, opportunities, and even the uncertainties of the future begins to fall into place. Not because life becomes easier, but because your trust is anchored in something greater than yourself. You live with confidence, peace, and a deep assurance that as long as He is first, you will never be last. When He is first, your life is built on an unshakable foundation. The storms will come, the trials will arise, and challenges will test your faith, but you will not be moved. When He is at the center, you are not dependent on circumstances, opinions, or emotions to dictate your peace. You stand firm because your confidence is not in your ability, but in His sovereignty. Putting Him first means surrendering control, acknowledging that you are not the master of your own destiny, but a steward of the purpose He has placed in you. It means trusting that even when you do not understand the process, He is working all things for your good. It is an act of humility that leads to true greatness, for the greatest among us are those who have submitted their will to something higher than themselves. The world measures strength by independence, but real strength is found in dependence on the one who holds all things together. When He is first, you do not fear lack because you know He is the source of all provision. You do not fear failure because you understand that your success is not determined by temporary setbacks, but by eternal purpose. You do not fear rejection because His approval outweighs the validation of men. This is where true freedom begins. When He is your priority, everything else falls into place. Not always the way you expect, but always the way that is best. You walk with clarity, with conviction, with an unwavering assurance that as long as He is leading, you will never be lost. When He is first in your life, you no longer live for yourself, but for a greater purpose. Your desires align with His will, your dreams are shaped by His plans, and your actions reflect His character. Every decision you make is no longer driven by fear, pride, or selfish ambition, but by a deep trust in His wisdom. You begin to see that life is not just about what you can achieve, but about who you are becoming in the process. When He is first, your relationships change. You love differently because you understand the depth of love you have received. You forgive easily because you recognize how much you have been forgiven. You serve joyfully because you know that true greatness is found in humility. You no longer seek recognition from people because you are secure in the knowledge that He sees everything you do. When He is first, your priorities shift. The things that once consumed your time and energy begin to lose their hold. You no longer chase after things that have no eternal value, but instead you invest in what truly matters. You realize that success is not measured by wealth, status, or achievements, but by obedience, faithfulness, and impact. And when He is first, you walk in peace. The storms of life may rage, but they do not shake you. Uncertainty may come, but it does not paralyze you. Why? Because your foundation is unshakable, your confidence is unbreakable, and your hope is eternal. When He is first, you are never lost, never without direction, and never without purpose. When He is first, everything else falls into place. Life no longer feels like a constant struggle for control because you have surrendered to the one who holds all things together. Your heart is at peace because you trust in His plan. Your mind is clear because you are guided by His wisdom. And your soul is at rest because you are anchored in His presence. No matter what comes your way, you remain unshaken because your life is built on an unshakable foundation. The true measure of success is not what you gain, but whom you follow. And when He is first, you will never be last. Stay faithful, stay obedient, and watch as your life becomes a testimony of His glory.